Well, hello there. Today we are starting with the Swamp Dragon. Absolutely beautiful miniature, all in metal by Reaper Miniatures. As you can see, I've stuck him together. He's on a little 75mm base boss base. What I'm going to do today is we're going to start making the base, or building the base that make a swampy base. Very, very simple, very easy to do. For the tools we need today, I've got some Veleco putty. This is for filling in the gaps on the metal miniature. It's absolutely amazing stuff. I recommend this 110%. We've got some PVA glue and we have some gravel. Now for the actual base, it's very, very simple. What I'm going to do is I'll show you how I make the base, and once I've finished the base, then we'll just do a speed paint of the miniature, and I'll put some music on like I do with the other ones. But for certain items, I will talk you through the actual painting process and the building process of anything I do. Okay, so very, very simply, it's as simple as getting some PVA glue and making little swampy puddles. Swampy puddles. So I'm going to build little swampy puddles by using the PVA glue. We'll put that up to the base there. Let's see. Actually, let's get some more focus for you guys to see better. 1 second. That's a little bit better. It's not the bestest, but you can see okay. So what I'm going to do is I am using this PVA glue, and I'm using it to make big wide puddles, little swampy puddles, and in between then we'll have the gravel, and we can add the gravel, and what will happen is you'll end up with lovely little circles that we can make into swamp pools. And then of course we can add reeds and grass and all sorts of things to these pools. And you can do whatever you like. It doesn't have to just be a swampy base. You can do all sorts of different things. It could be a sea base. It could be an ordinary base just with a nice little pool, a dragon pool, you know, like Gollum's pool. But what I like to do is just make lots of little circles, and that gives, and then I can make that look like water effects in the circles with the pools. Now all I need to do now is dip this into my basin material, which is just a mixture of sand. And what we're going to do, I'm just going to sprinkle it over here, make it easier. And then just tap off the excess, and we've got instant pools. Absolutely fantastic. So what I'll do is I will let that dry, and then I'll come back and we'll carry on, and I'll clean up my mess too. Okay, so I'm back. I got a brand new t-shirt on as well, and I've cleaned up my tabletop from all the sand. I've also added a coat of brown to my thing. This is the wood stain brown by MSP Paints, and I've added that to my dragon and the base, and already it is looking fantastic. Now for this dragon, we are only going to use 2 more colours. We have a white, of course, so white is always used, white and black, but the 2 main colours we're using is driftwood brown and jungle moss. And that's all I'm going to use for this dragon. Apart from its eyes, these are the only two colours I'm going to use for painting this dragon. So, a very simple paint, he says. But what we shall do is, once I've finished with the greens and the browns, I'll paint in the puddles, the little swamp puddles, afterwards. But I've also got this dry brush from Games Workshop, which I'm going to test out today. This is one of the brushes that came with my Stormbringer magazine, which I will be getting back into very soon, by the way, because I'm only on issue 5, and I've received about issue 22 now, so I'm miles behind. So I'm going to try my best to get one of those magazines in a week on a nice video. So let's make a start on this swamp dragon, and first of all we're going straight into the driftwood brown and trying this new brush. Now the idea is we can quickly go over the whole of the dragon. This will pick up all the highlights, and because it's a swamp dragon, I want to keep it all nice and dirty. So this is where the greens and the browns are going to really start working their magic on this miniature. So we're just picking up all the stones that we added, all that gravel, and of course it's already picking up all the fine detail on the miniature, and this is absolutely fantastic. Get those wings, leaving the dark in the recesses. Now we are going to be painting in the pools, so I'm not worried about going inside those flat areas of the pools, because they're going to be painted in a nice dark colour afterwards. The main thing that we want to do now is get this dragon quickly painted and get all our browns and greens wherever we need them on this miniature. And of course there will be an ink wash added as well, and the ink wash always makes everything look fantastic. So we're just repeating, going over this dragon, and what we'll do is, once we've gone around once, we shall then add some lighter tone, and we'll add some white into the brown just to highlight it a little bit more. We're just picking out all the areas that the light source would go down. We're keeping the bottom of the dragon dark brown, of course, so you got your instant shading. I always like to work my miniatures so the light source shines down. If you've watched any of my videos, you'll see that. I'm now adding a tiny bit of white to the brown. A nice little speed paint to get us back into the groove. Highlighting the tops of the thighs, the tail, back, wings. And just on the face there. And what we can do is a bit more white, and we'll just pick out a little bit more of the swamp going around. Just going over the highest places now with the light brown, just to finish off the dragons. Like I say, super easy paint. Dragons are so simple to paint. What you're doing is just trying to pick out the scales and bring out the highlights of the dragon. And of course, if you get the source right for where the light source is going, that always helps. And as you can see, it's working fantastic already. See how dark it is under this wing here? So we've left that lovely and dark, and the top of the wing is nice and bright. So the light source is shining down onto the miniature. The same on the other side, we have it nice and dark, and just where the light source would be at the top, we're just keeping that nice and fine. Now let's go and add some green. So we've just got some nice dark green. This is the jungle moss, and again, don't need much of this. This is just to highlight a little bit of the base on the floor. And I wanted to add slight hints to the actual miniature, because this bad boy dragon has been, he's been trundling, is that a word? He's been trundling through the swamp. So all this green algae from the swamp is slowly getting shot up all over him as he's stomping and splashing his way through the swamp. So he's making quite a mess, and he's looking quite a mess as well. Okay, that to me is all I need to do. So as you can see, we've added our greens and browns and a little bit of white for the highlights. So we'll just let this dry a little bit more, and then we'll come back and we'll get those puddles filled in, we'll get the teeth and the eyes done, and that's about as simple as it gets. Okay then, so let's move on to our little swampy puddles. Now for the swampy puddles, I am using some solid black. We're using some wood stain brown and some driftwood brown. So we've got a light brown, dark brown and some black. And all we're going to do is we're going to start off with a little bit of black in the middle. This is to give depth. This will give the puddle depth. And make it look nice and deep. So black in the middle, and then what we're going to do, we're going straight into the dark brown. It's just going to start pulling the black and the brown into one another. And back into the brown. Lovely. So what's happening now is it's starting to have a gradient and getting lighter towards the sides, where the puddle is getting a little bit not so deep. And we keep working our way out. And now we're going into the light brown as we get even closer to the edge, and we start pulling the dark brown into the light brown towards the edge of the puddle. Just keeping going around in circles, blending those colours together, and the final stage is actually hitting our rocks at the side of the puddle. There we are. Absolutely fantastic. And we do all this while the paint is wet. This is called wet blending, and once you've mastered this technique, the world is your oyster when it comes down to painting. You can do absolutely anything. Wet blending is one of my favourite things to do. It's a very fast way to paint, but you can get some absolutely beautiful effects and gradients with your paints by doing this. There we are. So once that dries, I'll blend in even more, but as you can see, the center of the puddle is nice and dark, and then it starts to blend and gets lighter and lighter towards the outside of the puddle. Very, very simple thing to do. It does take a while to master this, but once you've got it done, you'll never look back. There we are. So I'll carry on with the other little puddles. What we do then is, once this is dry, we just add a gloss varnish over the top of that puddle. You can use water effects, but it's very simple just to use a couple of layers of gloss varnish. So our swampy base is coming on fantastic. Now I've added some gloss varnish, some Veleco gloss varnish to the actual pools. And I'm going to put another coat on top of that a little bit later. But what we're doing now is I've just painted the eyes in with the white. So I'm just going to add a little dot of black. A little dot of black just to finish off those eyes there. Very, very simple. One little dot. And we are done. And the eyes are finished. Simple as that. Okay, so I've got 5 little tufts, and I'm just going to put some of this wood glue, the PVA glue, if I can squeeze some on there. Just place it in 5 different places where I'd like the tufts to go. And then just using some tweezers, I can just put on the tufts. Simple as that. And there we are. So we'll just let those dry, and then I'll do a little 360 and show you the finished miniature. Here is the finished miniature in all its glory on the wheel of paint. I'm doing a nice little 360 for you. As you can see, the swampy base has come out very nicely. We've got all the pools there, using some gloss varnish to make those pools look very nice and wet and gooey. And of course, by using those black tones and the browns, we've made the puddles look deeper than they are. It gives a false sense of depth to the miniature, which is very nice. And as you can see, the actual miniature itself looks like he lives in a swamp. He's all dirty and grubby, but by the way we've painted it, all the detail has come out on this miniature. So this is the swamp dragon. This is one of 8 dragons that I'm painting, all metal dragons from Reef Miniatures. So what I'll do is I'll probably put a little poll up on the YouTube community page for the next dragon, or telling you which dragon we're going to do next. So until next time.